believe. Stay in studio. No, we're recording. Are we live?
Welcome. Welcome,
We are
everyone.
live. Look at that.
I know. Excited.
All right. Well, we're probably gonna have to wait. I'm gonna jump on and just make sure that it's there.
Okay.
That it's showing up. Everybody, if you are seeing this, my name is Erica Bailey. I am I'm gonna say Kimberly's friend. Kimberly's number one, as she calls me. I'm here
Yep.
to kind of help with the tech support part of things, um, and also hopefully help get some questions out there. I'm looking to see if we are live. Welcome to our live show. Look at that. Yep, we're here. We're doing it.
Okay. Perfect. It's my
All
first time
right.
doing a live show, so it's kind of exciting and a little bit nerve-wracking all at the same time.
That's why we need support. Tech
Exactly.
support, friend support. First off, I just want to say, I'm grateful for you, Kimberly. Like, I know what it has taken for you to put faith and trust in me as a friend, understanding as a targeted survivor, as you
Yep.
call yourself,
Yep.
um, how challenging it is. And we're seeing stories after stories about people who they don't date. They don't, have any social activities because of how terrified they are in being attacked. So I think that it's great that you trust me, and I hope that I can give you some love back. I'm excited to do this with you. Um,
Thank you.
as you're aware, because you see everything, you have some great supporters here on YouTube, on X, on all of your channels. So I thought we could start as we're waiting for some people to come in. Um, let's talk a little bit about you. Can you, like, they watch your videos obviously, but can you kind of tell us how this started in the beginning for you? Like, how did you start to recognize all of these crazy things that were happening to you? Where did it begin?
For me, when I really started realizing what was going on was about April 25th, 2023, when I supposedly called, um, well, not supposedly, I called Terminex and another bug company to come and see whether or not I had termites because I felt stuff like falling from my ceiling. And so I don't know if there were people walking in the attic space that were causing that. And then nobody else seemed concerned about it, more particularly one neighbor who owned a company called Enhancing Communities Through Technology. And on his website, he listed a bunch of, well, he had a map of the smart cities. And so his response to me, because he lived up above, when I said I might have termites, was very concerning because if we live in a condominium and we have termites, then we have joined walls. So his response to that made me start questioning things. And then it got very much intense after that, where they started to frame me up as, define my character, frame me up as crazy, paranoid. I had paranoid delusions, or I was delusional. Um, and then obviously they served me a petition to have me put in a mental institution against my will for 360 days, which is almost a year. Why they left out the other 5 days, I don't know. Um, so it was all very interesting. You, I can't hear you.
I'm on mute.
Uh,
Looks like you got some people. Hi, Anita. Hi, Amy. Um,
Hello.
so the 360 days, that has something to do with like taking over your assets, right? Like, first off, when you say they, and I this is the very first thing I asked you, who the fuck is they? Like,
Yeah.
who do you mean by they?
Yeah, my highly political, estranged parents who are extremely wealthy, and my two adult children working for me at the time. Those are the they. And so through what I've learned is they can turn your family against you at any time that they want to through this battlefield on the mind, if you want to say that. Dr. James Giordano tells a lot about that. He teaches at West Point Military Academy and says drugs, bugs, and bioweapons, the brain is the new battlefield. And so they can pretty much mind control anyone to think about you in a certain way. Sometimes when I would tell people about this, the look on their face was like more like disgust, and it's really weird the way people react to this sometimes. Like for you, for instance, you didn't believe me initially that this stuff is going on today. And if you look at all the cell phone towers that they put up when everybody was in quarantined in their homes, which is a violation against our constitutional rights. And basically, we're imprisoned in our own homes. They started putting up these Gwen towers, which they use for some of these programs. Thank you, Becoming. Woohoo! I'm happy to have you here.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
That's you're right. But like you said, I didn't I looked at you at the beginning and was like, is this woman crazy? Like it this doesn't happen. Like I'm this little pixie fairy in a completely different world and mindset. I'm like, this doesn't happen. But the more
yeah,
I got to know you and the more I started to see the stories and the comments of the thousands and thousands of people who are saying, this has happened to me too.
yeah.
It almost like if you're not recognizing it, if you're not seeing it, then you're just blind. Like are we blind though, or are we just not educated? What do you
It's
think?
probably a little bit of both. There's probably some fear in there, fear of having some repercussion. But the bottom line is if we stay silent, it's going to get us nowhere way too fast, and they're going to strip everybody of their rights. And at this point, everybody's targeted. And some people know it and are aware of it, and some people aren't. And um, I we may only wake up 50% of the population, or we may not. I don't know. My goal is to try to save humanity one interview at a time through this Radical Truth Summit. And so, and get other people's perspective that know the web of deceit that we have been presented with, because they've lied. I don't like liars.
No, you don't. You don't like liars, you don't like bullshitters. You just want people to just be real. Like, and
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things you're trying to express is like we all need to be real. We need to wake up. We need to see what's happening out there, and we need to, I think, what was the one of the first things you said to me in like one of our first interviews? It was people need to stop watching cat videos or cat
And dog
TikToks and
videos.
start
Yeah.
doing their research,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's what you started. So you really learned how to do your research when with Lydia, right?
Yeah, yeah, with my daughter. Yeah, because she passed away, after 4 years of suffering with metastasized breast cancer. And then when you watch someone suffer like that, it's more particularly a child, you want to save their life. And so I was doing 4 to 6 hours a night in research of alternative research trying to save her. But it ultimately, all of this cancer is environmental. And so, guess where she used to carry her cell phone? On her person. And the phones create radiation. So, she would put her phone in her bra, and she would
Mhm.
put her phone in her pocket. And 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 this day and age, every kid has a cell phone in their hand, and it's basically a weapon of mass destruction.
So she would put her phone in her bra, and I've seen so many people do that. And she was diagnosed with breast cancer first, right? And she was what, 17,
She was
16,
19 and she
19.
ended up passing when she was 23. And how
And
terrifying. Yeah. Yeah. She ended up, getting tumors in her brain. Then she ended up going blind. And if there were any time that I would be a drug addict, it would have been after her death, not like, 9 years later.
hmm
So it's
Which is what
very,
they tried to say, right?
which
Your
is
your
what they tried to
parents,
say.
they
Yeah.
tried to say you were that you were crazy and that you were a drug addict. If I remember correctly, that was at this around the same time you did an episode about your arrest, or not your, it wasn't an
Yeah.
arrest, but your assault. Somebody
Yes.
assaulted you and the cops came. Was it after that that they petitioned you to go into the institution?
Yeah,
Because
even
that
after knowing, because they released the records through the medical crisis outreach team, which apparently my estranged parents reached out to them and said, "This, she's not well. She's not doing well." And the medical crisis outreach team does not have to go and talk to that individual about what's going on. So they tried to have me hauled off in July. That when I was walking down the alleyway and was assaulted was in August. Obviously, they take a UA at
Mhm.
the hospital, so they knew that I wasn't on drugs, which is why I presented it online because I knew that I wasn't the only one. I mean, it gets to a point where it's so crazy that you literally have to like not say anything, like so
Because you're
after I
afraid somebody's
discovered
gonna hurt
that.
you, or
What's that?
so you not say anything, meaning because you are afraid it would be used against you,
Yeah,
or you're just trying
yes.
to.
Yeah, that's why I told the police officer I'm going to stop talking now.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm. And yeah, I'll have to go back and find out what episode that is, but so this is a story, it's part of your, it's in your book,
it is in
but
my book.
it's a story where you're walking down the street, you're looking in somebody's garage because it looked like they had some of your sister's stuff.
Yeah,
It is an area that you know that you've been followed in, targeted in, and the guy literally like chased you down an alleyway and assaulted you.
yeah.
You called the cops, right?
I flagged the cops down, but see, this is part of the program because they will set it up to where the cops just happen to be in your vicinity where you think that the cops are out to help you. But any cops or community outreach program is not on a targeted survivor's side. Like they will try to incarcerate you one way or another. And so I just knew that I wasn't the only person that this was happening to, and that I needed to get the message out. Even if I was able to just connect with one person that felt hopeless um, about being targeted and having all of their assets stripped away, and coming up against people who are put in place to actually asset strip you is very
Mhm.
interesting. It's not in my wheelhouse of thought. So it took me a while to be like, no, they're not doing this. And I'm like, they certainly are. Yeah.
Nefarious.
Yeah. Nefarious, sick and
You're like,
twisted and pure right evil. Yeah.
so, all right. So they tried to get you institutionalized,
Hmm.
right? Your ex-parents who are highly politically connected.
Yep.
They are your ex stepdad, he was also part of the smart city thing here or in Utah, right?
Correct. It's in
Like or
Salt Lake.
something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they all went together as a group of people, of really wealthy people, to start building these apartment complexes right next to the Gwyn Towers, so that they could, basically charge you $2,000 for rent, which is, you know, um, astronomical in Utah. Like I call it Salt Lake shitty. I don't
Mhm.
really care if people get offended by that because there is a very culty over there's a very culty religion in that state, and I don't really care if people get offended if I say that either, because it's true. They can get together in closed door meetings at their steakhouse or their church and spew all this misinformation about you to have people gang stalk you.
What is a smart city, and why are they so dangerous?
Well, because they're pushing people in there, you might as well call it a concentration camp, because they're heavily, well, we're all surveilled today. There isn't one thing that they don't know that you're doing when you're doing it. And the whole point is, in my opinion, genocide. It's a genocidal agenda. And the radiation and dirty electricity grid, the more people that move out of those smart cities will survive a little bit longer until we can contain this, if we even can. At this point, I don't know. It's that's the agenda. That's the great reset, the one world government. And I don't I'm not really for it. So yeah.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah.
So, how long between learning that you were a target, going through all of these really traumatic experiences, how long before you started speaking up? Because, like, I and I'm lucky enough to be able to read the comments and support you with what you're doing. And it's insane, how terrified in my head, it is insane how terrified people are of speaking up. And there's been a lot of people who have been like, thank you for using your voice to help save humanity, like you said. But how long was it between the time you started speaking up, started writing your book, and like what pushed you to to be a voice? Because you are a voice for targeted survivors all over the world. People all over the world are following you and showing gratitude. So I guess
Yeah.
long question short. How long before
Okay.
you started speaking out, and why?
Okay. So here's the thing. When you go through something like that, you suffer post traumatic stress, no matter what. Um, the attorney that I paid $30,000 to get me, to not have me institutionalized against my
Mhm.
will, is also part of that judicial system that is not for targeted survivors. So he had me take a plea deal and told me it was my only way out. And the plea deal was for me to go into an addiction recovery center for 30 days as a partially hospitalized patient against my will. And they knew that I was court mandated in that addiction recovery center. They knew that I was not there as an addict. And some of the people in there were like, I know this is a really effed up situation, but it'll go by faster than you think it will. And so during that process, I learned a lot of coping skills. I was grateful that they put me with a therapist there that did rapid processing, is what we could call it, which is very similar to EMDR, but they use paddles instead of eye movement. And that is a trauma based therapy. So she is also the one that said, you need to put pen to paper, because if you don't get this out, it's going to eat at you. And so then that's when I said, okay, I'm going to write a book about it. And because I had already started doing diary entries and documenting everything that was happening to me since April of 2023 until I had to go into that program, which was later in 2024. And so that's how I was able to come out um, partially whole, obviously. talking to other people and knowing that I wasn't alone. There is some comfort in that. Rebuilding a community where people have been through similar situations and they're actually having the courage to come to my podcast and speak about their events, because that platform isn't about me. I'm doing the podcast for other survivors to come on and tell their stories, because there are similarities between targeted survivors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There seems to be the similarity. So we met in May of 2024,
Hmm.
which means that you literally got out and a month later, like pretty much said, okay, I'm going to start speaking like
Yeah.
that quick.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
are you
because
afraid
because
of what you're doing?
they dropped that case after I listened to a 4-minute statement in the courtroom of accusations and lies. And they said if I listened to that 4-minute statement, my estranged parents, then they would drop the case. So my ex stepfather tried to turn the podium in the courtroom to address me. And the commissioner got very upset at him and said to his counsel, "You make sure he turns that podium back around, because he is to address the courts only. He is not to address her and accuse her." And we were going to object a few times. Like, they told me I had a brain tumor on my head, which is actually a foreign body. And then after he finished with the statement, the commissioner, thank goodness I got a good one, said, "I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this case now. Thank you for your statement." And we thought we wouldn't have it until the next day. And 2 days later, we had the court dismissal. And then that's when you and I met, was basically the following month.
Right after that.
Yeah.
Right after that. So
Yeah.
she's just ready to go after it. Looks like you got a question. I'm going to show it on this screen. Joel's asking, are you aware that Florida Rep Luna introduced legislation to repeal the am I saying that right? The
The
Patriot
Patriot
Act.
Act. I did not know that, Joel. And thank you for letting me know that, because the Patriot Act is the biggest like violation of our freedom ever. And I hope that she's able to get it repealed. I think every state representative needs to repeal what Lil Bush put into law. That's what I call him.
Little Bush.
There was a cartoon out that it was Lil Bush, and they used to make fun of like Barack Obama and the Bushes, and it was quite funny. But guess what they did? They made him take it off of the network, because these people don't like to have fun made of them, when actuality it's a big joke.
It's the truth, right?
Yeah. Hi,
That's what we're
alternative.
trying to expose. Alternative actually engages a lot on your YouTube. Probably recognize that name.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. We're really happy. We appreciate everybody who's watching. Just dropping a line real quick. I'm Erica. I'm Kimberly's friend. I'm just helping here with tech support, asking questions. It's really important. She's doing this for you guys. So Kimberly's never gone live before. She wanted to do this because she wanted to answer questions directly. So please, if you have questions, if you have statements or comments like Joel shared about the Florida rep, drop them in here, because she wants to answer them for you. Listen to me. I'm speaking on behalf of you.
Hey, it's okay. It's a, I am grateful for you. So,
It's our thing. It's our
yeah.
thing. So we have people asking, like, what do you mean by coercive control? I didn't understand it until you explained it to me. And then I was able to actually put it into a much bigger scope of mind frame. So like, you did a TED talk actually in
On
New York,
coercive
right?
control.
Clarkstown.
Yeah, I had to approach it that way, because if I didn't, then people would call me a conspiracy theorist. And the news and the government has been spewing propaganda for centuries. And so coercive control is coercion, the use of force or threats to persuade, with control, the power to influence and direct behavior. And so that's what governments do to their citizens to control them, fear monger them, put them in a state where they don't want to speak out against it. And you literally, they can take me out. I don't really care. I'm not afraid of dying. So, since this is live and will be on, the internet, um, I'm not fearful. And once you step past that fear, because we're eternal beings, then it doesn't matter anymore once you know that there's eternal life. So, in my opinion.
And so she has to say this because how many times has your TikTok been taken down? I think 3 times.
Yeah,
So she has to be careful about what she says, unfortunately. And that's a problem. Like that is a
that is a
perfect
problem.
example. You're sharing your opinion on research that's been done and other people's stories, but you're being flagged, you're being silenced, you're being told to STFU,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
um, and that's exactly what's happening. Like you're being controlled. You're not able to speak this truth. Um, why is this happening, Kimberly? I've asked for a year and I'm still wrapping my head around it, but why are all these different things happening? Like the mind control, like the MK Ultra, like all of this. Why is it happening? Why the F do people want to do this to others? I
yeah.
don't understand.
Well, because it's evil and you're not an evil person, just like I'm not. So when you know that this is happening, it takes you a minute to be like, they're trying to take us out. That's literally the bottom line. And when they started taking people's YouTube accounts down and Twitter accounts for spreading misinformation, when many of these doctors knew what was really happening in 2020, 2019, if we're going to be completely honest, with the gain of function research and development, then that if you have common sense and you have logical deduction, um, then you would know right away that something is wrong. So I'm hopeful that 75% of the population is now like realizes that that was propaganda, coercive control, and fear mongering from the mainstream zombie news, is what I call it.
I'd like to know other people's opinions too. Like, drop in the comments or in the chat, like, why do you think this is happening? Why do you think they are trying to control the human race? Like, can you believe, Kimberly, really they're just trying to get rid of the human race and create their own new race of
Yep.
people, kind of like the
Yeah.
Nazis,
Yeah.
right?
Master and slave society, you have to have the people that are going to obey to be the slaves, and we're all slaves really to the system. So, yeah,
It's a lot. It's a lot.
it is a
So,
lot. That's why it's so exhausting. So, I have to maintain a balance here, because if not, I get emotionally overwhelmed. In fact, you and your um, team told me that, like, we want to take this slow. We don't want you to do more podcasts than twice a week, because you're going to get burnt out. And so I am grateful for you for putting that into perspective with me, because I probably would have, you know, exhausted myself.
it already does.
Yeah.
Like all the you
Yeah.
mean, and I've spent a lot of hours with Kimberly, and there's times I have to be like, okay, enough. Like we need to focus on the fairy pixie dust and love and light, and like because it is constantly on your mind. And do you think that do you think that some of this is being fed to you? Like, do you think that maybe um the constant, I'm going to say obsessive, I don't know what other word I'm trying to come up with, but do you think that this is being fed to you so that you are constantly overwhelmed and worried and feel like you're going crazy?
Um, I set my boundaries with the new AI driven mind control tools. So I just tell them to leave me alone and to get my data off the cloud where your digital twin is located and everybody has one. Um, so, does anyone else have their body activities and speech reflected back at? Yeah. I have subliminal messaging. I have heard people have their voices directed back to them. I don't have that, but I've heard other TIs or targeted survivors that have that, or, hearing something that nobody else can hear. I mean, this is the technology today. And they've had it for a really long time. We're going back to like 1930s or longer.
So a lot of this starts with, what is it, the seven families?
Yeah.
It is satanic ritual abuse. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It is satanic ritual abuse and trauma based mind control. Absolutely alternative. And trafficking for profit. Yeah. I mean, when you go down this rabbit hole, it will lead you into another rabbit hole until you see that whole web of deceit, which I did a solo cast on it. And I showed that map in the middle of
Yeah.
where it started and then everything that branched out from that inner working. And because it is all linked together.
How how
I'm
there's my
sorry,
ADHD. There's my
alternative.
ADHD.
I'm sorry, alternative, because I know how that feels. Because they gave my Bengal cat before I knew that I named him Love, um, because I named him Love for a reason, because love is all there is. That's my feeling. And they gave him cancer, lymphatic cancer. They put out there in the um, veterinary field that it was a new disease called feline infectious peritonitis. And but there was no FDA cure that you could give the cat. But in hindsight, when you look back and you start piecing this stuff together, they faked those videos. They had actors say that that was an actual thing, feline infectious peritonitis, which is propaganda. And and then I had to put him down because he couldn't take himself to the bathroom, and I mean, obviously his pupils were dilated. So I feel for you, because your pets are similar to your children. It was like reliving my daughter's death all over again. It brought that trauma right back up.
So God's love says, I have constant attack to my organs. It's like a gut punch every time they want to hit my heart, lungs. They're attacking my kidneys. I think you had once said, do you think that Lydia was targeted? Do you
No,
think?
yeah, absolutely. I think they targeted her. Yeah. And then she obviously would get the flu vaccination. I never did any of that. I told her not to. Obviously, it was before COVID, so she didn't get that. But that's part of the heavy metal that they use to control you, which is why they tell you. I tell people to do a heavy metal detox. Amy is right. A lot of it has to do with human computer interface and marketing advertisements based off suggestions and speakerphone components like subliminal messaging. Basically, there are
Mhm.
settings in your phone to turn off. Amy and I are going to do another podcast where she can walk people through on some things to do to help to protect their privacy and
Oh.
their autonomy, So unless she wants
Um,
to answer it now.
unless, yeah, Amy, you want to give us your 2 cents on that? While we're waiting for that, real estate and property mobbing, for those of us who own it, they are greedy, organized crime networks of sadism.
Yep, that's
And so
right.
is that like asset stripping? What is
Real estate
mobbing?
mobbing, yeah. So that might be Lorraine. Lorraine and I talked about that on her podcast with me. And basically, they will drive you out of your home with electronic harassment, or torture your animals. They will kill the animals and put them on your front porch and until you sell the property. And then the first bid that you get, because they did this with the condominium that I sold to save my life, they came in with a low ball offer. And it's usually an LLC that does that because they're hiding, trying to um, gain all these people's property so that they can take over. So you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
And it's your assets have been stripped like insane just in the past year and a half.
Yep.
Like
So now
you,
I had to dissolve a business and now I'll have to do bankruptcy.
so
So yeah,
they basically
we're
you end up
successful.
moving you lost your the condo you owned, right? You
Yeah.
moved from the condo to the other apartment, if I'm right. And like uh, what, $250,000 in legal fees just trying to protect your own civil rights.
Yeah. It was
They literally
130. Yeah.
130. They
Yeah.
literally pushed, like, you were basically forced. I mean, not that you wanted to stay in Salt Lake City, but you're basically forced out of Utah to try and save yourself.
Yeah. I had to leave that state to save my life. Yeah. Well,
So
here's
how do you? Oh, we got more. Oh, we do. Look at this.
well,
Loving this, guys. Keep it up.
it's relentless asset stripping, vandalism. Yep. With a low offer. Yes, that's correct. So Amy's going to tell you how to do that. Turn that off.
Ooh, here we go.
We
We're
should
putting it on the
probably
screen right
put
now.
that. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Settings, privacy, or customization settings. Turn off toggle personalized
Those
ads
ads
or
are marketing
marketing.
information. Thank you,
Yeah,
Amy.
we're gonna put that up one more time, guys, so you can capture it. Yeah, Amy's interview is amazing. So
Mm.
let's actually, while we're waiting for some more questions or thoughts, wait, oh, my brothers are trying to steal my parents' house from under me. That happens. Like
That does
it,
happen.
especially, didn't something that similar happen to you with property, like grandparents' properties or something? Like they took you off. Am I putting two and two stories together? Like, didn't they take you off or not let you pick property? Like, you've literally been targeted by pretty much everybody in your family except for your aunt and uncle,
That's
right?
correct. Yep, that's correct. Because if they would have been brought in to have these closed door meetings about um, the, you know, saying that I'm crazy and all of this, Reed and Cherry would have come and had a conversation. First of all, that's your first clue, is that these people don't come and have a conversation with you. They're relying on what other people are telling them, or they're being paid to harass you or threatened with their lives, I guess. Some people are cowards and don't want to come, forth and talk about this stuff. But I feel if everyone starts to tell their story and is courageous enough to do so, then they can't ignore it
Mm-hmm.
or shut us up or make us STFU.
STFU, which is on the cover of her book, Unveiling Shadows, of Course of Control, by the way, which also they tried to stop. She tried publishing her book months, guys. months, and they wouldn't let it on the different Amazons. Like they kept trying to
Amazon.
tell her she didn't own rights to her own book until very recently. So, I mean, like I said in the very beginning, I'm like, there's just no way. There's just no way this is true. But over the year, I'm watching these things happen to her. And one of the things I love about you, Kimberly, and I see a lot is, how do you cope with this? You are under extreme pressure, and like, how do you cope? How do you get through it? Because every time I talk to you, no matter what, no matter whether somebody's trying to steal your money, or like, you somehow say, I'm all right, and you keep moving forward. Like, if I were you, if it was me, I would be hiding in under my blankets. I mean,
Yeah.
like, poor Katie, she says they're hitting me so hard, I just don't know what to do. Head is under so much pressure. Like, how do you cope with this? What would you advise for other people to do?
So I can put a list of parasympathetic responses on my website as far as resources. So one would be like chewing gum. The other one would be like making noises with your mouth, singing, whistling. Um, Sometimes I cuss.
No.
Yep. And I microdose, obviously. Um, Lots of fluids. Yeah, keeping yourself hydrated with not tap water, obviously. And so there's just
What do you do?
several things that
Talk
you.
about the alkaline water. What's the value of the alkaline water, and
Yeah,
how do
I
you
like
make
I like
alkaline water?
the
You put fat
alkalinity.
a lot.
Yeah, yeah, because your body, the cancer can only live in an acidic state. So if you keep your body alkaline, I mean, and obviously there are other ways to make your body alkaline, like baking soda. You can put lemon in your water. I learned those things when I was trying to um, figure out how to cure my daughter's cancer. And little did I know that you can actually use, I do the EMPF frequencies on my phone that can protect myself from the 5G radio towers. And my FBI handler that was put into place, um, they took his daughter out too. They ended up starting to cut her limbs off, and she was, I think, 19 when she passed away. But he is the one that said, "Hey, I've got this app. It's the best, $99 I spent." And he can say things in a way that will cue me to say, like, without outright saying, Kim or Kimberly, this is what you need to do.
Goosebumps. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about implants for a second. Then we'll get on to the Radical Truth Summit. You are jumping back on live on Saturday,
Yep.
right? We're coming back
Yeah.
live on Saturday. So
Yeah.
everybody stay tuned, come up with questions.
Thank you, Anita.
Um,
That's right. Anita, she posts on YouTube and stuff too. We've had several conversations. When she's ready to come on the podcast, she will. But yeah, anyone listening, you're welcome. Like I said, I created that platform for you. It's your voice. It's not mine. I just ask you specific questions, and there have been like every guest that I've had, I've enjoyed. So
and she means it, guys, when she's saying she does this for you,
yeah,
because the first thing, again, we sat across from each other at a table, you're telling me your story, and you say, I'm doing this because I want to save humanity. And
yeah,
ultimately your goal is, through your book sales and stuff, you want to create a nonprofit that helps other people financially fight
Yeah.
for their freedoms,
Or
right?
for us to buy a piece of land as a targeted community and go grow our own food and, have our own, livestock and live off the land. I mean, that's really what it's coming down to. So,
Survival,
survival.
right?
Yeah.
Protecting yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, let's talk about implants because again, like these things are insane. Like I'm hearing the like things that they put in your ears and your body. You say you have implants in your body. You even scanned me, and apparently I have things in my head, which I'm gonna. Anyway,
So,
so talk about implants. How does that happen? How does somebody put an implant in you, and what's the reason? What's the
well,
purpose?
well, they can do it with just a needle, just an injection. And so I haven't had my legitimate scan yet because I had to postpone it because this cat that I inherited had 3 baby kitties. So it was supposed to be this coming Saturday on May 17th, but I had to postpone it until July. So then I'll go into a Faraday room where they will do some RF scanning. They recommend doing 2 types of scanning. RF is one of them. I think Amy does a different type of scanning, but Jesse Beltran speaks about it on the summit. So that's what he talks about, and they can put it in the vaccinations. So yeah.
And you think you have some in your teeth?
Yep, they can put it in dental aesthetics. Yeah, because when he was drilling and said I needed a crown replacement, he was very uh, egotistical, and I couldn't figure out what
Mhm.
was taking him so long. And I said, "What? Why are you drilling for so long?" And he said, "Oh, because you actually needed 2. You needed the adjacent crown done as well." And I was like, I never signed up for this. And so then he was obviously part of this situation too. And
So he's
so
drilling in your teeth, and you only agreed to
one
one
crown
specific
replacement.
thing, but while he is in your mouth, he's drilling another one without confirming, without getting approval,
That's correct.
nothing. He just is drilling in your mouth saying, "Oh, you needed the second one."
Yep, that is absolutely correct. It's in my book.
And that's how they're tracking you?
Yes. So I feel like some of the chips, depending on who's chipping you, can kind of create some sort of interference so that they can't fully know where you're at via the satellite. So they put on up those live view technology centers. So,
Mhm.
and the reason that I'm stating that is because I've never been anywhere more than in Salt Lake, where that live view technology company is, where they go off every time I'm there. So, Igor and I have a different opinion about that. He's my Russian friend that I met at the Targeted Justice rally. But just yesterday, so happened I went to the grocery store where I now live here in Texas, and guess what was in the parking lot of where I go to PetSmart and the grocery store, but one of those surveillance units. So now there's 2 of them in this small town that I live in, and they're run by the police department here. So,
All of a sudden. They weren't there when you got there.
so that's when you asked me this morning how I was doing, and I said I'm hanging in there because it really
Oh,
pissed me off yesterday because there's no reason for that to be there. It's not like there was a shooting in that parking lot. Like the crime rate here is extremely low. And if you go to for any surgical procedure, they can implant you. They're being bribed and coerced. That's correct. Because the first time that I reached out to Targeted Justice, Anna Toledo told me to stay away from any cosmetic surgery, and I said, "Well, that's too late for that." So they've got, and she said in that message that they have those surgeons over a barrel, And this is how, when you go down one rabbit hole, you're going to go down many. And so it's really hard not to get discouraged and say we're fucked. Excuse my language, but you know, there does come a point
You
where
don't
I
get
have to
fucked.
kind of let it go for a minute and then come back and revisit it after I sleep, you know, to be like, okay, it's another day. We're on the battlefield right now, people. If you don't understand that, I feel bad for you, but it is a battle right now for our survival.
Which has really been happening for centuries and centuries and centuries. It's just a different medium, right?
That's
Right.
correct.
So let's talk about this Radical Truth Summit. Like this is like the first of its kind, right?
That
Like
I'm
this is a
aware
point.
of. I don't know of anybody else that has, put this together, and you know.
So it's a virtual event basically. Right now we have 14 speakers who
Yep.
are experts from all over the world in their own industries, their own fields. So talk to us a little bit about the Radical Truth Summit, what you're doing, why you're doing it, who some of the speakers are, the topics are. Guys, this is a free event. It is 14 days right now. It could go longer depending on if we get more people who want to speak. It is a free event. You get an interview every single day. It's an hour and a half long. Watch it at your time. You got 48 hours to watch it.
Yep.
And we had to do this behind the firewall, right? Because otherwise you'd be silenced, right? They would
Yeah.
take these videos down, which is why it's private versus just going up on your podcast, right?
Yep.
Because the
That's correct.
sensitivity of these subjects. So talk about that real quick before we jump off here.
Well, it's basically how the elites and governments are trying to strip away our freedom. Obviously, like programs like MK Ultra that never stopped, their digital surveillance, um, the financial coercion, the psychological warfare, non-consensual chips, uh, the truth behind the Havana syndrome. So some of the people that I spoke to, I'm going to read them off. Um, are Dean Henderson. He goes through the bloodlines of power, the Royal Anunnaki and the Illuminati. Then we've got Brandon Iglesias, who is an engineer. He's a bioengineer. He's extremely intelligent. He tries to dumb it down on the summit interview, but he is extremely intelligent. And we've got Jesse Beltran, who does the non-consensual experimentation via the chips or the foreign bodies, which apparently we have to call it that. James Roguski, he goes over the PrEP Act and how he's been trying to fight that and get legislation passed for that to be repealed as well. We've got Dr. Len Bear. He's a Havana syndrome survivor. Then we've got Tiffany Fontenot. She's a reverse speech specialist, which she's amazing. Dr. Nicholas Korn is on there on how he uses vibration to help heal people after being injected. We've got Dr. Jack Kruse. He talks about the MK Ultra, the mob, and a call to wake up savages, which is what we're going to have to be. We'll have to be savage about the way we go about bringing this to light and bringing it down. Dr. Joseph Sinone, he's great. He is exposing the mRNA and also trying to get legislation passed in his state of Florida. We've got DJ Chris with Targeted West. He is awesome. He's been targeted for over 23 years. Chomi Prague, she is an attorney, and she has had her children taken away from her through the systematic abuse. Amy Hollum, obviously, she's amazing. She goes through the technology of this. She has clients all over the world that she's done screenings for. She has so much information that our video our interview was actually 2.5 hours long. And then we've
Mhm.
also got, we also have, excuse me, Kathy Meadows, and she's written 2 books about targeted individuals. One is called Mom, I'm a Targeted Individual, because, and she's also a um, psychotherapist. And so we've got amazing people that I think will bring light to a specific topic that I
Mhm.
don't have all of the knowledge, but I think together as a whole, we can piece this stuff together so that even one little saying or one little click in one of those interviews will help wake someone up. I don't know. You know, Jack is a little less optimistic than I am. I tend to ride on the optimistic side of things,
Mhm.
and I think if I wasn't that way, I wouldn't have gotten as far as I have today. So
And you're still here. And
and I'm
again, you're
still here.
speaking out for others, and it's amazing. So, guys, you can, again, you need to register because this is behind a closed community.
Yeah, it's a close
Because,
community.
again, she's silenced everywhere. So, we just have to, anyway, that's why. So get on. You have to register. You'll get an email with the information. You'll get an email with the link to the interview every single day. It is really it's really powerful. Again, I'm learning, and I get to watch these interviews in advance, and wow, like just the topics, the knowledge,
Yeah.
the truth. It is the radical truth. And I think in one of them, Dr. Simone, am I saying that? Dr. Simone,
Sansone, Dr.
Sansone, thank
Sansone.
you. I don't know why I got he
Yeah.
says, he's like, this is the radical truth, like literally in his interview.
Yeah.
It's
Yes, he
just
does.
it's what people don't I think we just don't want to hear it because we don't want to believe it. But I think the more we are learning, the more we open our minds. Because your goal, you don't want to just get this information to TIs. You want to
No.
get this information out to the entire world.
Well, yeah, because they need to protect their family and they need to protect their children. And I don't know how many divorces have probably happened over this, um, weaponry. How many children have turned against their parents? How many parents have turned, against their children? Um, how many friends have turned against their other friends for even bringing it into light that this
Mhm.
exists. So I want people to be better prepared. I want them to have a toolbox to be able to go to, or
It's
experts. Yeah.
support. I mean, their loved ones. Like, again, this is that's what it is. I mean, and in this world, in this realm, it's hard to trust anybody. It's hard because they don't believe you. They
Yeah.
look at you like, yeah, becoming its radical truths summit. I'll drop it in here. Um,
Well, because they could be next. Like this program, you could, like, it's not going to discriminate,
mhm,
because you could be next.
it could be. And if you understand what's happening and you know what to look for, I promise everyone out there, you will relate to something that is said in this summit. You will relate to something that Kimberly says during her podcasts, her solo casts, or the guests. It's now I see it. And I tried, I tried so hard
She
for
tried to bury
almost
her
7
hand.
months to bury my head in the
Yeah.
sand
Yeah.
because it's just too much. Well, it's only going to get worse, right? Which is why you're speaking out, why these other speakers are. Okay, so again, we're going live on Saturday. It is 11 Pacific, I think 2 Eastern. Time zones mess me up. And so people like bring your questions, come prepared. Like we want to. want to talk to you. She doesn't want to just talk to me. She talks to me all day long. She wants to talk to you. So please come back and join us. Again, Kimberly, Radical Truths with an S, two S's. Radical
Yeah.
Truths
Summit.
Summit.com.
Yeah.
And do you have anything else you want to add or say? I mean, I kind of talk your ear off here. Sorry,
Well,
everybody.
I always tell everyone at the end of my interviews, except with Jack, I didn't have a chance because he popped off. But stay strong. We've got this. Stay
All right.
strong. Yep.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again on Saturday. And
Thank
make sure
you,
you register.
everyone.
All
Thank
right.
you. Bye bye.